This is your homework help video for our Scatterplots worksheet assignment. Okay, we'll be doing about half of this paper together on video. Let's go ahead and start with number one. Number one, we have a game skill. So basically our x-axis is labeled the number of hours you spent playing the game, and the y-axis is your skill level at the game. Okay, so it looks like this is going in a positive direction, so that would be a positive correlation, right? And what does that mean? It means the more hours you play the game, your skill level, your ability at playing the game gets higher, right? So the more this goes up, the more this goes up. And that is how you identify a positive correlation. They're both going the same direction, all right? Negative correlation, one would go up, the other one would go down. Okay, so let's go ahead and fill in these blanks here. We use the graph titles to basically answer the questions. We know as x increases, y increases, but we use the vocabulary, whatever they have here. So we say as the number of hours played, that's what x is titled, as the number of hours played increases, the game skill level also increases. And as we already said, we call that a positive correlation. So now the challenging part comes up, and different people's answers might be a little bit different, but we want to try to fall in the same ballpark to each other. We want to draw a trend line. Okay, we call this a line of best fit. And we want to use it to predict the game skill level of someone who played for 14 hours. So we want to figure out if they played 14 hours, where would that be? Somewhere up here. Okay, the general rule of thumb for a trend line is you're not going to go through all the points because they're not a straight, they don't make a straight line. But we want to maybe go through some of the points, but more importantly than that, we want to try to get about the same amount of points on top or above the line as we have below the line. Okay? So say I have 3 above, well, I want to have about 3 below. Now, it may be impossible to get exactly the same top and bottom, but we want to kind of try for that. We also want it to be kind of equidistant from, say these points are just about a space above the line. Well, we want these points to maybe be that far below the line. And again, it may be impossible to be exact. This is not exact, but we can do our best. Okay, so I try to, and I got a clear ruler here so you can kind of see the points below my line as I work. If I were to go through these exact points, this very beginning one and this very end one, I'd be a little bit lopsided. I'd have 3 points above my line and only 1 point below my line. So that's actually not a good line of best fit. I want to maybe move it. Now I have 3 above, 1 right on the line, and 2 below the line. That's actually, it might be pretty good. Okay, so that might be a better fit. And the lines are pretty equidistant. This is about a box below, and this is about a box above, a box above. And this one's a little more, but like I said, we can't help that sometimes. So I'm going to go ahead and say this is about as best as I can do, and I'm going to I'm going to actually draw my line now. Now since I have a kind of a big marker, I have to pull away just a little bit, make my line. There it is. Okay, so I have 2 below, 3 above, and 1 on, and this one's almost right on the line as well. Now that I have my trend line, I can go ahead and use it to predict. At 14 hours played, approximately, maybe about around 11. Okay, it's just above the 11, but I'm just going to say around 11. Their game skill would be around 11. And that's how you do that. So I want you to go ahead and do number 2, but we'll go ahead and look at number 3 together. So number 3, we have Coffee Joe's cocoa sales. The x-axis is labeled temperature in Fahrenheit. The y-axis is labeled cups of cocoa. Okay, so what do we have here? The temperature is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. This is the temperature outside, right? The number of cups of cocoa they're selling is actually getting smaller. Okay, so as it gets hotter outside, people maybe don't want hot chocolate, right? They don't need something to warm them up. So the sales are getting worse. So as the temperature increases, the cups of cocoa sold actually goes down, decreases. And like I said earlier, you'll notice when one of them's going up, the other one's going down, they're going opposite directions. That's an indicator that you're looking at a negative correlation. Okay, let's try trend line again. Okay, so I'm going to put it again right at my very leftmost point and rightmost point and just kind of see where I'm at. Okay, I have 1, 2, 3, 4 above it, but look at all these I have below it. That's way too many. So I need to readjust. Maybe go this way a little bit. Okay, so now I have 1, this is barely above it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. That's pretty fair. I think that's a good trend line. And you could shape it up a little bit, maybe go right through this point. That would give us 1 right on the line, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So maybe we'll try that. Okay, so that's my trend line. Based on the trend line, if the temperature is 40 degrees, here it is, about how many cups of cocoa would I sell? Somewhere around 30 is my estimate. So I'm going to say approximately 30. It's not exact, but it's approximate. Okay, so that gives you some practice on that. You'll do the middle one on your own. Let's go ahead and do some of these on the bottom. We'll do maybe the first 2 together. So it says, if the following data was graphed in a scatter plot, identify which would be positive, negative, or no trend. Okay, the first one is a person's shoe size and the length of their hair. Now, the size of someone's shoes and the fact that they may or may not get a haircut, they really have nothing to do with each other. So if we were to poll, say, 100 people and graph that data, we would probably not really get a positive or a negative correlation. We'd probably get something random. So I'm going to call that no correlation. How about the next one? The amount of chicken wings ordered as the number of guests at a party increases. Okay. Well, what happens first? People are showing up at the party, right? So the number of people, or the number of guests, as that goes up, assuming that they are ordering wings at the party, right? More people show up, somebody's like, hey, we're running out of wings, we need to order more wings, right? So the number of wings is going to go up as well. As one goes up, so does the other. That is a positive correlation. Go ahead and do the other 3 of those on your own. Let's take a look at the back. All right. We'll go ahead and do the odds together on these. Identify the data sets as positive, negative, or no correlation. More of the same, basically. The number of siblings a student has, those are brothers and sisters, and the grade they have in math class. Well, that may have nothing to do with each other. I may have 5 brothers, unless you want to blame them for distracting you and you're not doing your homework, but that's probably not the norm, right? So I'm thinking that has nothing to do with each other. That is a no correlation. Number 11, the number of weeks a CD has been out, assuming people still buy CDs, and the total sales. This could be an album released online also, right? Okay, well basically, and don't overthink this either, because say the album first comes out, there's a whole bunch of sales, right? But then as the album gets older, maybe the sales start to taper off, but that's not what they're asking. They're talking about total sales added up from day 1, okay? So, when the album first comes out, here's all the weeks. The longer the album's been out, from now to the end of time, the sales are going to go up, right? The sales are probably going to start really high if it's a popular artist. And even though it's not going to be as steep over time, you're still going to be adding up all the total sales over time. So it's gradually, always getting constantly bigger, right? Because we're adding all the sales together. So that's going to be a positive correlation. The longer it's been out, the more sales they're going to have. in total. Number 13, the number of songs downloaded onto your iPod and the amount of memory available. So if I have an empty iPod, I just bought it, nothing on it, say I have 32 gigs or 64 gigs or something, right? But the more songs I put on there, as the number of songs goes up, and that increases, the amount of data I have left available is going to decrease, okay? So that's going to be going downhill. That's a negative correlation. And last, the age of a house and the number of the people living in the house. Well, you could have only one person living in a 100-year-old house. You could have 1,000, not 1,000, but maybe 10 people crammed into a 100-year-old house. It doesn't really matter the age and the number of people, because it doesn't say anything about the size of the house. It just says the age. So I'm going to go with no correlation for that one. Okay? We'll be doing more of this in class, and ask questions. Come in for tutoring if you have questions.